Hello, fourth grade champions. Welcome to Monday, and we're continuing our read out of my shell. Looks like we're almost halfway through the book. I'm going to start at the bottom of page 92, where she's thinking about her 13th birthday, and she's texting with her dad. Dad took almost as long to respond as I had. When he did, he said, "I don't suppose you'd settle for a pony." He was trying to kid his way out, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook. "A grand gesture, please," I typed again. "Okay, I'll see what I can come up with. By the way, I'm not ashamed to admit I'm living my summer vicariously through you. So what fun things do you have planned for today in the land of paradise?" What did I have planned? Completing my project and confronting Mr. Shaw, although I didn't think Dad would consider that fun. "The mob is here," I texted back. He wouldn't think that was fun either, but at least it was honest. I take back what I said about paradise. Dad's response was swift. It made me chuckle, then wince. I had to admit, Dad's wit could be cutting. Dropping my phone, I moved to the floor, unrolled my paper, and set to work. I felt bad for ignoring my family all morning, but then I remembered what Aiden said, that I shouldn't worry so much about pleasing everyone else. Of course, he'd also said that Mr. Shaw wasn't the kind of person you could reason with. I sure hoped Aiden was wrong about that. I poured myself into making the poster as eye-catching and informational as possible with my limited resources. Without a ruler, the lettering was a little slanted, and I'd squished some of the facts together on one side when I'd run out of room. But overall, I was proud of my work, and I was feeling good about my plan. I was going directly to the person in power with all the right information. Mr. Shaw would come around, and Mr. Emerson wouldn't have to be involved. Before we parted the previous night, Aiden had told me Mr. Shaw lived in an enormous house in Sarasota and that he usually left work early every day. It was after 2 p.m. by the time I was satisfied with my project. I'd skipped lunch and my stomach was growling, but I didn't want to miss Mr. Shaw and delay getting the problem taken care of. Timing my exit for when Aunt Michelle was putting the twins down for a nap, I slipped out of the house unnoticed. I headed straight for the lobby of the Beachcomber. I hadn't been inside the inn very many times before. Aiden almost always came with me, but it was clear that as many renovations had been done on the inside as the out, maybe more. There was new bamboo flooring and an area rug with fancy furniture sitting on top of it. The old decor had been a little bit of everything thrown together. This had a decidedly maritime feel with shell-shaped coffee tables and waving hints of blue all over the place. And the place was bustling. Suitcases were being wheeled in and out, and multiple guests were waiting at the counter. Mr. Shaw was schmoozing a woman whose pasty skin gave her away as a new arrival. With my poster tucked carefully beneath my arm, I approached from behind and waited for a lull in the conversation to make my presence known. "Can I just say, those are terrific shoes," Mr. Shaw complimented the woman on her coral-colored heels with neat little bows on the toes. The skin on the tops of her feet bulged. The heels looked unbearably tight. They looked anything but terrific to me. But the woman lit up at his attention and squeezed his arm. "Well, aren't you the sweetest?" Mr. Shaw bowed slightly toward her and said, "Anything you need during your stay here, Mrs. Fry, let the front desk know. We'll take good care of you." Then he swung around and nearly bumped straight into me. "Mr. Shaw, I need to talk to you," I said before I could chicken out. His face froze in a plastered-on smile. "What is it?" What happened next was sort of a blur. I remember holding my poster out for him to see and barreling headfirst into my spiel. I'd memorized every last word on the page, and I rapidly repeated all of them. I spoke so swiftly that what I was saying was barely comprehensible. But it was comprehensible. By the time I got around to recounting what I'd seen on the beach, the loggerhead turning away, tears had sprung into my eyes. It was embarrassing, but I went on pleading my case. The woman in the coral-colored heels flanked my side. "Oh, honey," she said, "that's just awful. Those poor turtles. Why, something must be done about this," she petitioned Mr. Shaw. "Of course," Mr. Shaw said. His smile never wavered. "Would you please follow me to my office," he said to me, and then to Miss Fry. "I assure you this young lady and I are going to put our heads together and find a satisfying solution to this unfortunate problem as quickly as possible." "That's wonderful," Miss Fry said. "I'm so relieved to hear you say that." Then she was happily on the move, dragging a wheeled suitcase behind her. I felt relieved too. Mr. Shaw spun around and motioned for me to follow. We went behind the welcome counter and entered a little room with a massive mahogany desk. When Mr. Shaw shut the door behind us, I expected him to either start making calls or brainstorming ideas to fix the lighting right away. Instead, he ripped the poster from my hands and tore it in half. I want you to leave, he said coolly. You will not disturb my guests and ruin my business. I don't ever want to see you on the Beachcomber property again. Is that clear? His sudden change in demeanor caught me off guard. I was speechless. He peeked out of the office window, and after Miss Fry had turned a corner and was out of sight, he practically shoved me back out the door we just walked in. I had to keep moving to keep his hands off the small of my back. By the time I reached the lobby, I was in a light jog. I didn't stop running until I was back at the beach house. For days after, the encounter with Mr. Shaw haunted me. My cheeks burned every time I thought about it. I knew I'd done nothing wrong, but the memory filled me with shame. Certain members of my family would be appalled if they heard I was causing trouble next door. And what would Aiden think? He tried to warn me about his grandpa's boss, yet I've been so gullible following Mr. Shaw into his office like that, thinking he would help. When he banished me, I'd been so stunned I hadn't even protested. I felt both wronged and at fault. I should have tried harder. To make matters worse, Dad kept asking me what I was up to. I needed more photos of our favorite spots around the island. My friends have been hounding me for updates too, but every time I even thought about jumping on the trolley, the mob got in the way. I almost made it out the front door once when Diego yelled, "Where you going, Cousin Liv?" at eardrum rattling volume. Aunt Michelle was on me in a heartbeat. "Where are you going, Olivia?" she asked in a disapproving tone, one that said I was exactly going nowhere. At least her eyes and ears around the house, aka the twins, went to bed early, and I was able to sneak out after dark. But even the beach didn't provide the solace it had before. The image of the turtle turning around and crawling back into the ocean was imprinted on my brain. Every night I didn't see her, I grew more anxious. I grew more desperate than ever for Dad to come. Mr. Shaw would never be able to chase Dad away from him. Dad would stand his ground. Dad would know exactly how to make Mr. Shaw do something about the lighting. The thing was, I was afraid to ask Dad to visit for fear he'd say no. I wasn't sure my heart could handle another rejection. Over the past few days, he'd taken stabs at what I meant by a grand gesture. So far, his guesses included a photo book for the pictures I would take this summer, a GoPro, and photography lessons for my birthday. 2 days before I turned 13, I texted, "My birthday is almost here," hoping against hope he'd say he was coming. "Did you figure out what to get me?" "Yes, I can't wait," he texted back, followed by a winking emoji. That was strange. I expected him to apologize for not coming up with a grand gesture. I'd expected him to say my gift was in the mail. There was no way he'd figure it out. Was there? "Is it something that comes in a box?" I texted back. "Nope." "Is it on its way?" It wasn't like Dad to pay ridiculous prices to mail something. If it was a package, he would have sent it already. "Not yet." "When will it arrive?" "No more questions, Liv. You'll ruin the surprise." "Please, give me one hint." "Okay. Let's just say I thought seeing a familiar face or two on your birthday would really brighten your day." Did that mean he was coming? But he said a familiar face or two. Who else would he bring? Maybe one of his friends from the university? Probably Dr. Nugent. The two of them had gone to academic conferences together before, and I wouldn't blame Dad for not wanting to travel alone. It didn't matter as long as he came. "I really want to see your face." So we had a little glitch there. Hope you're still listening. In the middle of page 99. Did that mean he was coming? But he said a familiar face or two. Who else would he bring? Maybe one of his friends from the university, probably Dr. Nugent. The two of them had gone to academic conferences together before, and I wouldn't blame Dad for not wanting to travel alone. It didn't matter as long as he came. "I really want to see your face," I texted back. "Don't worry, you will." I sprang from the bed, nearly knocking my phone to the floor, and punched the air with my fist. Yes! Dad was coming. In a couple of short days, we'd be together again. In just a few short days, I'd have my biggest ally here with me on the island, finally. Some good news for me and the turtle. Thank you for your patience, boys and girls, and for listening. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll begin Chapter 10, page 100. Have a good afternoon. Take care.